we can talk some more, but let's hear us another song off of Wall Dogs. I got Tim Stafford and Thomm Jutz here in Studio B.
I think Tim should introduce this one because he plays the guitar that goes with the song.
Well, I really got interested in these guitars that were built by Gibson during the World War II, and they call them banners because they have this little banner across the peghead that says "Only a Gibson is good enough," and they only made them for 3 years in the 40s. And that was, of course, the time during the war when all the men who used to work in the factory there in Kalamazoo, Michigan, were gone to war.
Mm-hmm.
So the women came in and built, almost all these guitars were built by women. John Thomas wrote a great book about it called Kalamazoo Gals. And I had read that. Both Tom and I know John, and we were talking to him. Now there's a documentary film about it, which is you're probably going to see in theaters at some point. It's really amazing. But the topic is just so cool that we ended up writing this song about the banner gals. That's what we call them. And so I've got my banner. This is a 45 Gibson all mahogany banner from 1945, built by one of those Kalamazoo gals, those banner gals.
All righty.
1, 2, 3, 4. From 41 to 45, they had to keep their families alive. Most of the men had gone off to war, so they took their spots on the factory floor. Working hard, learning fast to build a guitar that would last for songs that lifted the country's morale. Each one built by banner gal. Some were ragged, some were rough. Only a Gibson is good enough. Some still ring just like a bell. Each one built by banner gal. Maple, mahogany, rosewood, and spruce. Some too tight and some too loose. Forced to use whatever they had, 'cause the country was poor and the shortages bad. 9,000 made, that's not too many. Today they cost you a pretty penny. Sometimes the old is better than new. Hooray for the gals from Kalamazoo. Some were ragged, some were rough. Only a Gibson is good enough. Some still ring just like a bell. Each one built by a banner gal. Rosie the Riveter and Oliver Kent played their part and helped to win. Some built planes and some poured lead. The gals from Kalamazoo made the banner heads. Some were ragged, some were rough. Only a Gibson is good enough. Some still ring just like a bell. Each one made by a banner gal. Some still ring just like a bell. Each one made by a banner gal.
Thomm Jutz, Tim Stafford here in Studio B. Every time I listen to you guys, whether it be here and live somewhere or whatever, I learn something. And what an interesting story that is. And you know, the guitars were probably not the only thing that the ladies made back there. You know,
Totally.
Yeah. Imagine the ladies building the banjos and.
Hey man, yeah, and you know, of course, the Rosie the Riveter character is well known in American history and culture, but you're right. There were a lot of different places that the women took over, and started building things that were formerly just seen as men's domains, which. It was one of the things that proved that wasn't necessarily the case.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, they weren't just building bombs and stuff. They were building guitars.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, the Gibson company wasn't very interested in making that known that those guitars were built by women, you know. So.
That's right. Yeah, it took a long time for John Thomas to get some kind of acknowledgement from the Gibson Company.
Yeah, and he made a bunch of them too. He went to Kalamazoo and visited the ones that were still alive and talked to them about that.
Yep.
And amazing history.
And the Martin folks are over there going, wait a minute here. What's going on with this? Nah. Great sounding guitars, though, man.
Oh, well, we have to talk about that a little bit, too. These guitars that we're playing, the two new ones, are built by a guy called Rufus Thames from Bristol, Virginia. And Tim introduced me to him, and I heard one of his guitars, and I just freaked out. And he I talked to him about making me one, and he built me this guitar that's based on a 32, 18?
Yeah, 32. Yeah.
A 12-fret slotted headstock Martin D18, and it's one of the greatest new guitar that I've ever built. I mean, it's a couple months old, and it's unbelievable. And the one that Tim plays is a replica of his 34 D18, and they're unbelievable. And last night, Rufus came to our gig, and he sat about two feet away from us, which was really special, you know, to get to play. I mean, I really felt honored that he came, but I think he was also really proud to hear two of his babies playing together, you know.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. I can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah. Yeah, he really builds great instruments, Bristol, Tennessee. So, yeah, there's a lot of great luthiers out there right now building those kind of things, you know. And we got a lot of them in North Carolina. Everybody knows Wayne Henderson. And
Of course.
Of course, Wayne mentored
Rufus,
Rufus.
yeah. Oh.
So, yeah, that's how he learned.
But
Well, I gotta brag on one of my colleagues here at WNCW. Richard Beard also is a builder of
That's
instruments.
right.
Yeah.
And does some nice work.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
well, I don't typically name my guitars, but Rufus named this one for me, and he calls it Big Bang because it was made in Bristol, Virginia. And so obviously now the question is there going
Not
to be
Tennessee, Virginia.
That's right,
That's right.
right. And now the question obviously is there going to be a little bang, a double O, you know? So I think we're going to
Well.
started that conversation last night casually, very casually.
All right, so great to have you guys, Tom and Tim, here in Studio B. Tim, congrats to you and Blue Highway, 30 years this past year,
thanks,
right?
man. Yeah. Hard
And
to
a
believe.
great new album out, too.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're still doing it. You know, we're getting ready to record a new live album that's going to be coming out soon. I think in a couple of months, and you know, we're still hanging in there after all these years. Still got the same four guys that we started out with. We have a new dobro player. Rob Ox left about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we've had some pretty good dobro players in that time. We had Gavin Largent, who was just named the IBMA Dobro Player of the Year this past year.
Yeah.
And plays with Dan Tominski's band now. And then also, you know, Justin Moses, who plays with Sierra Hull, and it's her husband. And now we've got Gary Holtman, who does such a great job.
Fantastic, he is.
Great tone, great player, and just a great guy, too.
Yeah.
We're seeing this family grow up, too, man. Like, it was just, you know, 5 of us, and we didn't have any. I had a kid. I was the only one that did in the band. Then Jason, Sean all had kids. Rob had kids. And now, you know, Jason's son, Jacob, is a first-class
Boy, he is.
musician, just an incredible musician. And now, you know, Gary's got a brand-new baby boy. So we got, not only are we staying with it, we're breeding new players, new members.
Well, I don't know how you guys do it because I was in a band for 15 years and I never want to do that again. I don't know how you guys did 30.
I don't either.
Tom likes these more collaborations and doing his own thing, right? But I was talking about learning something from you. I'm going to have a senior moment, Tom. The Part 1 and 2 album you put out a few years back.
To Live in Two Worlds.
Thank you, To Live in
Yes.
Two Worlds. Why couldn't I come up with that? Anyway, I learned a lot off of those records and your songs on those records too. I mean, you know, it's amazing. You know, you think about it when you hear songs like the ones you're playing today, and you think, man, what I don't know could fill the lake down the hill here. You know,
It's true of all of
Well,
us.
we're not trying to lecture people in any kind of
No,
way,
no.
but you know, we're both teaching songwriting. Tim teaches at ETSU, and I teach
Yeah.
at Belmont University in Nashville. And so because I'm teaching undergraduate students that are, when they start, they're 18, 19 years old, and so naturally what they want to sing about is teenage heartbreak. And so I am certainly the world's foremost authority on teenage breakup songs. And so I don't need to add anything to that canon, so I just want to write about different things. And there's a world of people out there like the Banner Gals or the guys who we're going to sing about in the next song that nobody ever sang about them. And I think that's a pity, That's maybe one of the nicest and best ways to preserve somebody's legacy, to write a song about him,
Yeah.
Exactly.
or take a photo of him, or paint a picture of him. And I can't paint and I can't take photos, but I can write songs about him. So that's,
keep the heritage and history alive.
Absolutely.
It's not all about nostalgia. It's about our history and where we
right.
came from.
That's right.
And some of us anyway.